There can be only one podcast, and may it be the Princes of the Universe. Hi, folks. I'm Matt, all alone again, doing Marvel TV shows. Last week, I finished Inhumans and I almost said Rescuers. Runaways, Season 1. I have now finished Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the last two seasons, 5 and 6, or 6 and 7. I cannot recall. 6 and 7. This time, I decided to go ahead and finish them all off. I was kind of watching them in between other shows, but I said, you know what? Let me just watch both seasons and get this over with. Because after Season 5, I was very disappointed. It seemed like that was their big story at the end. It was supposed to be the end, according to Josh Whedon. That was the end. But then ABC kept renewing it for 2 more seasons. And then they said, okay, guys, just step away from the MCU and have fun. And boy, did they not. In season 6. Season 6 was awful. It's so much garbage. They still make a reference to Ghost Rider, which was in season 4. In my knowledge, he was only in 1 episode, if I recall. But they're kind of done. And later on, they do make a reference to something else in the MCU. But they're basically done. And they said, and Josh Whedon goes, this gave our writers more creative control. According to Josh Whedon, this is why I know the reason why I wanted Bruce here, is because he could kind of give me some more insight in this one. But Josh Whedon originally wanted Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to be a good TV tie-in. And at first it was. It would happen, episodes would happen after certain movies that came out in theaters. And it was like the aftermath. Some of the co-stars from movies would star in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury was in the first one, which was exciting. It got the ball rolling. How is Coulson still alive was a mystery back then. And Hydra was a villain. And I'd say after season 3, things started getting wonky. And I really wasn't a fan, and I quit. And of course, like I said, came back for season 4, hated it, quit again. And now I'm just going to push through it all. And so pushing through 6 is probably... And this is wow, the worst season. And that's wow because seasons 4 and 5 are pretty bad. But season 6 is the absolute worst. I don't have my notes. I left them at work. Right before I was doing this, on my break, I was writing down notes for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. When I was going to record it tonight and forgot them all. So I'll have to go by memory. But in the previous season, they go to the future and they know what's going to happen. And so some of them know that we won't die. And they even test that theory out by doing a Russian roulette. She's drinking a couple of cups. One is filled with poison. And so if she doesn't drink the poison one, she was never meant to die, right? And she doesn't. And so, they keep proving it over and over that they can't die because they're in the future. They already know they survive. And so why on earth are we cliffhanger? They may die. Fitz and Jenna may die. No, because in the previous season, you showed that they cannot die, or everything by happenstance. She doesn't drink the poison out of the 1 out of the 4 cups were poison. Someone switched them up without showing her, and she drank 3 of them. And the one with the poison was the one she didn't pick up. So she is showing that she cannot die. And but now we're tempted by their death several times. They may die. Why? Because in the previous season, you said they could not die. You established that the characters could not die. Why does it matter? And Coulson dies so much. They make a joke at the end of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that he's died 7 times. Once in Avengers and 6 more times in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. His reincarnated body, his essence, his android form, his alternate worlds form. The monolith created a body for him. That's the other thing. I knew when they killed off Coulson again in episode 5 or season 5. I was like, I thought he was in all of them. He does. He comes back as a reincarnated. There's these 3 monoliths that deal in time, space, and the third one is creation. And it created Coulson. But he doesn't have Coulson's memories or personality or anything. In fact, He is the bad guy called Sarge. And this is terrible. May wants to kill him. One of the Chronocoms or whatever these, the time-traveling androids. It's just so far-fetched. And maybe this is what S.H.I.E.L.D. comic books were all about. I don't know. But I never watched them either. But S.H.I.E.L.D. was just a bad idea from the start, especially when you're trying to make these characters sound interesting. Because honestly, Coulson you kind of like because of Avengers, but he's run his course now. He's really run his course. I know he had a fun time. I bet he even told them, he said, hey, kill off my character or bring me back in a way where I don't have to be the good guy. So here he's the bad guy till the very end, but don't worry. He's going to get his personality back and be Coulson again. And then is going to be kind of weird throughout the rest of this series. But he gets created by Monolith. There's a Chromacon that becomes a ghost and starts possessing people. I don't get it. Or maybe it's not Chromacon. I don't know. I didn't know. There's a girl, when they destroy her, Coulson destroys her and he dies, but now she can possess people. And everything is just so topsy-turvy and so confusing. It is horrible. And because of that, I did watch a full 8 minutes of Agatha All Along. It was some in season 6. I went, I can't do this anymore. I stopped in the middle of an episode, in the middle of a scene. It's a lot of talk, deposition, talk, no action. That's what Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is. It is definitely one of the worst, probably in the top 5 worst. Agatha All Along is definitely in there. She-Hulk's in there. Echo's in there. Secret Invasion's in there. Yeah. There's room for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Well, I don't know. Jessica Jones. When I start back on her series, I wonder what that'll be like. But it is definitely in the bottom tier. And this is sad because it went 7 seasons. And they couldn't come up with anything good. Now, I will say this. Season 7 is one of their better seasons. And I'm not going to go back and watch the first 3, but I know season 3 sucks. Seasons 1 and 2 I remember being good. Season 1 maybe better. But season 7, pretty good. Ended terribly, horribly. But they're going, for some reason, and we don't know why until the very end, and nothing makes sense because it's time travel on top of more time travel. But somehow they go back in time to 1931, and then they start hopping. Not different decades. They go to 55, 73, 76, 80, 82, 83, and then I think they stop because they don't want to go to the 90s for some reason. But either way, they're hopping through time because they got a time travel machine. And we're not explained any of this. The why, the what is going. Fitz is gone because according to the show, he is staying in a fixed location to, in their words, be the anchor for the current timeline as they go back and change time. And time is flipped everywhere. It is flipped everywhere at this point. And in fact, that's why Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. sucks, because they've tampered with time so much that surely the timeline is off. Surely they've changed history, especially as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. goes. But at this point, they don't care. Remember, the writers get their own free reign. And I like the timepieces. They did cross over with Agent Carter by having someone from that show, the guy with the crutch, come on. And he joins the cast kind of early on. He's a good character, and I enjoyed seeing him again. He was supposed to die, they said, in the 50s, but they saved him, faked his death, and brought him onto the ship. He's a man without time, and he's always impressed by the technology in the 50s. And that's a funny scene because they go in, there's a bunch of old computers, big box computers, everything, and they're like, oh no, because they thought this would be a big command center, but it's like 50s technology. But the guy, no, I'm sorry, 70s technology. 1970s technology. But then the guy from the 50s goes, whoa, look, he's really impressed. Like it's the future for him. And that is funny. That is very funny. Now, remember, the guy with the crutch was supposed to be Agent Carter's love interest. And of course, Peggy Carter loves Captain America, as we find out later on in the Avenger movies. So good call, pulling him out of his time. And then he falls in love with Quake from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I guess I'm okay with that. They just did that at the very end to kind of pair people off. But they do have some fun episodes. When they get to the 70s, they are in their old comic book uniforms, the blue with the white boots and white gloves, and the old Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. from the comic books back in the 80s. And it's funny that they're in those suits. In fact, Coulson goes, "Oh, I kind of like these suits." Back when they were kind of campy and whatnot in the 70s. And I thought that was a great reference and call back to the comic books. I love when they do that. And of course, I can't think of the guy's name. He's the Tick on the live action Tick. He's Putty and Seinfeld. Peter Warburgarden, whatever. He's in it. And he guest stars in a few episodes, and he's fantastic. Oh, excuse me, fantastic. I got hiccups there. Gave myself the hiccups talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But he is fantastic in that role. He's funny. And I start laughing, and I start enjoying him. There's a lot of humor, especially when they get to the 80s, because Deke, who is a man from the future, who came back from the past, whose grandparents are Jenna and I forgot his name already, the Irish guy. And he fits, and he goes from being kind of a serious scalawag to a goofy guy. By the time we get past 5, he's now gone full goofy. In season 6, he has his own tech company, but he's ripping off tech from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and from the future. And so during it, he's and this is his first reintroduction, and I like his goofier character now. He's not serious. He shaved his little beard. And I'm glad they did, because now you kind of buy into he's not serious, smart, and deceptive anymore. He's more goofy, because now he's just trying to have fun. The actor himself said, "Hey guys, I want to play a comedic role," and so he gets it. He actually looks a lot younger now. He's just enjoying the moment. He calls Jenna Nana, and I think Pop Pop is Fitz, and that's kind of funny that he calls them that all the time. He is doing tweets and live streams and Instagrams and getting boba tea and talking the shop and everything and spouting all this nonsense, but he's super rich, and it's very funny. It's very funny, and I forgot to mention that Deke in season 5 is good. Now, in season 6, as he's traveling through time, is great, because they get stuck in the 80s, and this is something that it was really weird. At the end of an episode, the last 70s episode, 1976 was the year. Gosh, I can't think of his name. The black guy who is now the director. His parents are found in the set. He's trying to protect his parents from the Cybertrons, Chromicons, or whatever, the Decepticons. Who cares? And who now can steal the personality and face of any human. So as he saves his mom and dad, they're telling stories about him being a little kid. And he asked his dad, because his dad got hurt. His arm got hurt. He got shot or grazed in the arm. He said, "Dad, let me treat your arm." He's like, "No, I'm fine, son." And then he's like, "Dad, let me see your arm." And he won't do it. And so he realizes, uh-oh, that's a Chromicon. And of course, he sees the arm. It is a Chromicon, but so is his mom. Big battle at the end where he has to kick his mom. I mean, the dad dies, and he has to kick the robot mom out of the airlock. He finds out his parents have been dead for quite some time. They were taken by Chromicons I don't know, who knows how long ago. Well, at the end of the episode, he gets up on a motorcycle and just drives off. 1976 America, he just wants to chill out in the field. Deke goes out to look for him. I mean, in the last, 15 seconds, as Deke goes out for him, they hear a message. Deke gets a message for Jenna. Jenna's like, "Where are you? Where are you? We're leaving. The time thing's jumping. You need to get back." And he goes, "What? Hold on. Let me get the chief." And he goes, "Chief, we need to go there." And then the ship disappears. Like, oh no, they jumped into the future. And that's the end. Wait, what? Now, later on, and like 2 episodes later, they explain what happened inside the ship at that time. But it was so random. It's like, try to do that last minute. Like, I don't know, did that have to happen right then and there? Couldn't it have been the opening for like the other episode, the next episode? It was really weird. It felt like they had to cram that in there, and it didn't feel like that little piece belonged in that episode. But either way, Deke and the guy get stuck in the 80s, and they have to wait there for 4 years until he comes back. Now, Deke, as the 80s go by, 82, 83, or whatever, when they're stuck in the 80s, oh no, they jumped and they got to 80, and then they had to make it to 82, 83 before they got picked back up. But they had to age a few years. In those few years, Deke is into an 80s band that sings all cover songs that have not come out yet. And he's changed the lyrics. And the lyric changes are hilarious. They're slight and have to deal somewhat with his own story life. And it's so funny. It is so good. That's when I started thinking, whoa, is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a great TV show? Is it going to redeem itself in the end here? I should mention, I thought about another funny thing that happened that I really liked with season 7. The Enoch is the first Chromicon they met. He is their friend. He's Fitz's friend. The reason Fitz isn't in this is because the actor had to he had other jobs, and he doesn't come into the last 2 episodes of the season, and that's when it all goes downhill. But Enoch, the Chromicon guy, he gets stuck a long time ago in the 30s and has to wait 20-something years, or maybe, no, all the way to the 70s, 40s. He has to wait 40 years on Earth, and Chromicons don't age. But it's funny because in the 50s, when he finally sees him again, they can't go by the bar and pick him up where he's still working. He's kind of miserable. They're all alone. And then in the 70s, he peels up to him in like an Oldsmobile, and he goes, come with me if you want to extend your lives, like the Terminator. Hilarious, great. In fact, Enoch was a really good character. He was more interesting than Agent Coulson, who, by the way, Agent Coulson, who dies yet again in the previous season, he comes back as a memory, as does the bad guy girl. They're kind of airwave memories. They're in the atmosphere. I don't understand it. But anyway, where she entices a guy from 1980 to build an old school 80s robot for her, a robot body for her. She's communicating through old printers and whatnot, old DOS memories, old computers. He builds this 80s robot, which is great, which they go on a rampage. There's a lot of 80s robots with buzzsaws and blowtorches and laser beams, all 80s stuff. And I was really digging the 80s references and those. I really thought that was good. But meanwhile, Coulson is on a tape player or VCR or video. So they hook it up to a TV, and he's like basically Max Headroom. And he's like that for like 2 episodes, which is kind of funny. Eventually, S.H.I.E.L.D. does digitize him, makes a 3D body for him, and Coulson's alive again, only to die again later on. I'm sure he does. If he doesn't, I can't remember, but I'm sure he dies again. But either way, Coulson's been reborn and killed off 7 times probably at this point. And again, they made a joke at the end about this, but it wasn't funny. And by the way, no death matters. Every time you think someone dies, you think they went the full way and finally killed someone, no. You thought they killed Fitz in season 6. He dies at the end of season 5. You're like, oh my gosh. No, because they're going back in time or to when Fitz froze himself to get to the future so they can get to him before he unfreezes himself so they can have... Well, wait, if you take him out of his timeline, he won't be able to save you in the future. That was the whole reason Fitz was getting frozen in the first place. But that doesn't make sense because now Fitz gets unfrozen too early and has his own adventure before Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. get to him and say, hey, you've already saved us, and you already got married, and you already proposed to Jenna. And I was like... And then the new Fitz is kind of frustrated. He's like, why does any of this matter now? And I was like, yeah, exactly what I was thinking. And that was the moment, I think, in season 5 when I went, this is garbage. And then watched 8 minutes of Agatha All Along before saying, oh, wait, this is worse. And then went back to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's never a good idea to deal with time travel, ever. But when you're doing layers and layers, and they're making jokes, how does anything this make sense? They went, well, I believe there's paradoxes, and there's several different strands. Basically, they're explaining the multiverse, which is what eventually they got into years later in the MCU. Where's the TVA for all this, S.H.I.E.L.D.'s violations? That'd have been interesting, but TVA wasn't invented back then. So they had to come up with their own little source of it. S.H.I.E.L.D. just screwing with the timeline. By the way, S.H.I.E.L.D. as a company gets destroyed once, but then they reverse that too. Everything gets reversed at the end and fixed to the normal timeline thanks to Fitz as the anchor at the end, which makes no sense. But going back to, let me go ahead and get to things I hate. Other things I hate. The villain was a kid back in the 70s. I don't know. He doesn't age for some reason. Maybe he was a kid in the 80s. And now in the today's world, or maybe they fight in the night. I don't know what happens. But it's just a young adult being the villain, and he's not really good, and his acting's not really good. And there's a previous villain, I'm assuming, who was from one of the first 3 seasons. Well, his younger version is back. Because the main bad guy in this season got the younger version of that actor and made him the villain again. Okay, I don't care. And even if I could remember who that old villain was, you've got a young guy playing him now. It doesn't make any sense. And he's not that good of an actor. And eventually he turns good or decides to help them, but then gets shot in the head immediately by another S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who doesn't realize he wasn't supposed to shoot. And they go, meh, it's okay. He was a bad guy. Actually, no, he wasn't. He decided to help you. He decided he was going to help you, start helping you. But I guess you thought it would be funny just to kill him off. I mean, it's one of those subvert your expectation things. I get that. But at the same time, I was just like, palm slap. Was it palm? Yeah. Palm slap on the forehead. Didn't go back to Agatha all along, though. But the last few episodes of that season were just a dud. Just a dud. Just the same old weak TV powers fighting each other off. Oh, I should mention, man, I hate to keep going back and forth, but I don't have my notes with me. There was this Living the Same Day Over episode, which usually I love. I love those episodes no matter what. This one had a little bit of humor, but not that much. This one had a little bit of different rule change, which means if the girl dies, then she forgets all her loops that she's been through. She resets. Unlike Bill Murray, who dies and lives Groundhog's Day over and over and over again, she automatically forgets her loops. But Coulson, Android Coulson, does not forget. So and by the way, there's a finite number of loops. There's a countdown. We find out kind of 1/3 into the episode. There's a countdown of how many loops they have left to get it right, if they can figure out the mystery and how to get out of this. I think it's a time warp. I think that's what it's called. I don't know. Rocky Horror Picture Show played last month here in town, and my wife loves that and was playing the time warp, but I think it was a time warp. Either way, let's do the time warp again. But usually these living every day over and over things I love. Happy Death Day. Enjoyable. I enjoy it. The second one, it was all right. It was kind of silly, but the first one, good. What else? Live, Die, Repeat. Edge of Tomorrow. Excellent movie. Excellent. I love that. There's an episode on SG-1 where they're in a time loop. I love it. Super funny the whole way through. One of the best episodes they ever had. So when I find out it's a time loop, I'm excited, right? Okay, so let's see, because the show has been kind of slow into a crawl here. Let's see if it can get better. And it doesn't. They couldn't even make their time loop episode interesting or funny. Does it have a gag? Yes. Here and there it does. But not really anything that's too funny. And the whole time I was watching this, I went, wow, this episode had a lot of promise, and S.H.I.E.L.D. still couldn't do it, which again is why it's one of the worst Marvel MCU shows out there. I mean, to be honest, if I would have said, let me just pick it back up just for the heck of it, after season 5, I would have quit the show a third time. And then after season 6, I would have quit the show again. I would have quit the show so many times. But I wanted to power through. And then at the end of season 7, they defeat the bad guy. It's very anticlimactic. It's not even exciting anymore. None of the characters you're interested in. And they do this 1 year later. Oh, by the way, it's been foretold this is their last adventure. And it does. It ends up being their last adventure. But of course, no one dies. You thought, oh, maybe finally Coulson dies, or finally someone dies and makes it fine. No. Remember, MCU, they can't kill off any of their beloved characters. That would be too smart for audiences. So everyone has to get a happy ending. But why was it their last mission? The black girl, the black guy and Yo-Yo, his Hispanic girlfriend, are still working at S.H.I.E.L.D. May teaches at the academy. Coulson has been trying to soul search himself because he's an android who has the personality of Coulson, but he's still an android. Jenna and Fitz, oh, by the way, it's revealed that Jenna and Fitz, the thing they were protecting this whole time, what's so important to the world, because the whole time Jenna has there's so many times. I wish I had my notes on me. I'm sorry to be all over the place. Jenna has this, we find out she has something in her neck or in her brain that's inhibiting her memories. Then we find out in another reveal that she was the one that put it there, but she doesn't know why. But then we find out it's to protect people from finding Fitz, because everyone needs to find Fitz. He is the key. He is the anchor. If the Chromicons can kill Fitz, they will unseed the anchor and reset the timeline. None of this makes sense, by the way. And that's the best I can explain it. But if you leave Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to explain it, it takes 45 minutes, like an entire episode to explain it, because they got to sit there and talk about their feelings in between. Anyway, so when they remove it to help her get out of they need to get out of a jam. And I think it is the time loop episode. She is not worried about knowing where Fitz is, but something else is so terrible. And she starts screaming, that she took it out. I can't believe I took it out. We're endangering everything. And you don't know what it is. Is Fitz dead? But Fitz turns out alive. But then her inhibitors cut out of her by the end. But then the Chromicons get her and damage her, so Jenna doesn't know up from down. She doesn't know anyone. But we find out the big secret they were doing, and I guessed it as the episode went on, is their daughter. Yay, they had a daughter, which is Deke's mom. Which Deke doesn't meet his mom. In fact, I can't remember what happened to Deke. They say they miss him in the final episode, and I started thinking back, what happened? I remember him in the time warp, and I remember him, I think, at the end, but I don't recall where he went. Did he disappear from the timeline now that his mom is alive? I don't know. I don't know what happened. But Jenna makes a joke. Oh yeah, I can't wait to get to know him again as their grandson. But anyway, they all meet. The ending is they all meet in a bar, which they're all there they're all there with holograms on. They're not even meeting in a bar. That's just their pretend place. They're meeting up. They're all doing different things right now. Oh, and then we find out that someone who died epically in one of the episodes, they gave him an android body too, so now he's back too. So even this S.H.I.E.L.D. agent who basically was just a guest star in a few episodes, they brought him back too. So remember, no one dies. And it wasn't that epic when he died anyway, because he hardly had any speaking lines. He was basically their pilot and did a few things here and there, and then he died in one of the episodes. It's kind of big, I guess, but it wasn't one of the big agents. But even he can't stay dead. They had to bring him back to life as well. Total garbage. But they're all living their own lives. Fitz and Jenna are living on Quake and her 50s boyfriend are seeing the stars. By the way, he got his leg fixed. He doesn't limp anymore because the actor's like, screw this. I don't want to walk around with a cane now and do the limp. I just want to be regular walking around guy. And so they're off seeing the galaxy together while Jenna and Fitz, I guess, are on Earth living with their daughter. And Coulson's still going to explore and find himself. But everyone says, you have a home with us, AC. And as they're all leaving, they're all taking off. But this was the last time, the last adventure they had. And they promised they'll do it again one day. Maybe we'll meet up again every year. Let's do this. Okay, why did you have to break up as S.H.I.E.L.D.? It still doesn't make sense. But because the show ended is why. But why was that why could that be their last mission together? What? Because they all wanted to go different paths? I don't know. It seemed really forced. The real reason was the series had ended and they were done, but still. And so Coulson, at the end, we find out he gets keys to his own hover car, what he's always wanted. And he flies off in the hover car, and that's the end. And are we supposed to applaud? Are we supposed to be happy? Everyone's got a happy ending? No, it's total garbage. Final thoughts. What do I think about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.? Don't watch this. Don't watch it. It's horrible. Again, had to watch a little bit of Agatha all along, so it still beats Agatha all along. But wow, one of the worst. Definitely right now trending at the bottom 5. But tell me, what are your thoughts on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the entire season as a whole? And are there things you would have done to make it more interesting? I really want to know that. And I'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe.